So, this is my first live, guys. Today, I want to discuss the movie that we have all been discussing in this channel, Meet Joe Black. And honestly, I cannot get enough of this movie. It is our 90s comfort movie. Today, I want to discuss the alternate endings in this live. And guys, feel free to suggest your opinions and ask your questions. Alright, looks like I have to give a refresher about Meet Black or not. So, alright, so Meet Black, it is that 3 hour long movie. However, it really feels like 3 minutes if you get in the right mood before you watched it. And for those who watched it, I am really sure, guys, that you have not forgot the scene where Brad Pitt eating the peanut butter. That iconic scene, it is not forgettable. However, in this live, we're here to talk about the ending. All right, so let me give you guys a refresher about what happened in the original ending in the movie. So in the theatrical ending, Joe, which happens to be the death, he basically takes the life of that was Bill Parrish. And Bill Parrish, basically the actor name, if those of you who are asking who it is, it's Anthony Hopkins, of course. So Joe takes Bill Parrish life over the bridge. That scene is beautiful. However, when Joe returns, he basically returns the body of the young man from the coffee shop to Susan. You remember the coffee shop scene where Joe meets with Susan. So at the end, and after taking Bill Parrish's life, Joe returns in the form of that young man from the coffee shop. So what happens basically? The guy wakes up confused, doesn't remember being dead at all, and he and Susan walk off into the fireworks. Honestly, this scene was sweet. It's basic Hollywood, but I was asking, does it really make sense? Does it actually make sense? What do you think? I mean, does it really make sense when someone returns from the being from the dead and becoming alive and then gets back to meeting Susan? Maybe it doesn't make sense. However, we are here to discuss why, and basically in both cases, why it makes sense and why it doesn't. So Susan fell in love with Joe, that innocent, ancient, peanut butter loving entity. Not the coffee shop guy here. So tonight, what I did, I will discuss 3 alternate endings that I think fit the tone of that movie way better. I want you guys to give your opinions on every single ending. If you are coming late to the live, I understand. This is my first live. However, you can get back to the live and see the endings that I discussed. Maybe give your opinions and see what's what. So, the first option I wanted to discuss is the clean break. Now, basically why I call this the clean break. In this ending, we keep everything the same up until the bridge where Joe takes the life of Bill. So Joe and Bill walk over, they disappear into the dark, and the fireworks are exploding. Susan is standing there, tears in her eyes. She waits and she waits, and guess what? Nobody comes back. So if you think about it, the young man died in that car accident at the beginning of the movie. His body was just a vessel, a suit, just a suit Joe wore back then. And when Joe leaves this plane of existence, the vessel should not magically revive. Right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. That breaks the rules of life and death, which is what the whole movie is about. This movie exists to break the rule of life and death. So in my version of the ending, or the first version, basically, Susan is left alone on the lawn, let me say. She's left alone there. She lost her father. She lost, uh, let me call it, the strange, beautiful being she fell in love with. That's my first alternate ending. Now, I hope I can come up with a good explanation of why this works. It's heartbreaking ending, but it respects the theme. The lesson Joe taught Susan um, was to live life passionately because life ends. If she gets the boyfriend back as a consolation prize, she basically end up not learning the lesson. So in this version, she walks back to the party alone, um, looks up at the sky and whispers and says maybe thank you. So she has to move on at the end. That's the ultimate acceptance of death. If you wanted the sad ending, I see a lot of you crying already. So I know. We can discuss the second ending now. So before I discuss the second ending, I want to check on the live and see, guys, what's what. Let's see here. Alright, looks like I'm gonna move on now to the second ending. Well, the alternate ending here, I call it the maybe the rejection. So it's the rejection. It's option 2, and that's for those who like reality, the realists, right? I call this you're not him. So the theatrical ending happens. Joe leaves. The coffee shop guy walks back over the bridge. He looks at Susan, confused, and he says, maybe, hey, where did you go and what am I doing here? So Susan looks at him, see she maybe sees the face she loves, she sees the eyes, and maybe then she realizes the light behind him is different. The innocence is gone, the ancient wisdom is gone. This is just maybe a regular guy she might come across in her daily life. A nice guy, but just a guy. So in this ending, Susan steps back. She maybe shakes her head and says, I thought you were someone else. Then she realizes she cannot date this man because he looks like the entity she maybe, let me call it, loved. Yeah, she loved. So it would be a lie here. She touches his cheek one last time, smiles sadly, and lets him go find a taxi. This also works like the first ending. And the reason is this ending gives Susan an agency. It acknowledges the fact that she fell in love with let me call it, death's soul, not Brad Pitt's face. That's what happened, and now she realizes it. It's much more mature ending about realizing that some loves are singular events that cannot be repeated or, let me say, replicated. So what do you think about this ending? Is it too harsh? Is it too real love? Or that's basically what should the movie ends with a real love, right? Okay, looks like I'm gonna drop now the third ending. Now the third ending, it's the fantasy choice here. So that's maybe my favorite. It is the hates. No, not the hates, and Persephone here. Not gonna call this. It's just a fantasy choice. So we're gonna be back at the scene where it ends, the bridge. So we are at the bridge now. Bill is ready to go. Joe turns to say goodbye to Susan. He says, I have to go now. Susan grabs his hand. She looks at her father, then back at Joe, and she says, take me with you. What do you think? If that happened, Bill would panic here. He starts shouting, no, it's not her time. But Susan argues that maybe a life without this kind of love isn't the life or isn't a life that she wants. So she has tasted the infinite. She cannot go back to being a doctor or nurse and pretending the world is normal here. That's why she says, take me with you. Now, Joe here, what does he do? He basically looks at her. Maybe he struggles first with it, but then he smiles. And, his smile, that slow Joe Black smile, he realizes that love transcends the rules. He takes her hand. Bill, Susan, and Joe, all three of them, walk over the bridge together, right? We get rid of all of them. The camera pans maybe up to the fireworks, and the screen fades to white. That's the third ending, and I think this also works because it turns the movie into a dark fairy tale. It may look controversial, sure, because Susan dies here, and she dies technically, okay, but does she really die, or does she become something else? The queen of the underworld. It's romantic, really, and it could be gothic and huge as well. Okay, these are my three endings. Okay, so the first one, let me summarize them. The first one, she loses everyone. The next one, Susan rejects the body. And the third ending is she leaves with death. Now, my comments, honestly, I think the movie went, maybe let me call it with the safest option here, or the happy ending, the happy Hollywood ending. But imagine if they had the guts to go with option two, when Susan rejects the body Joe comes with. It would have been, from my opinion, it would have been an Oscar winning ending. So before I end the stream, guys, I want you guys to comment below which ending would you rewrite, and don't forget to like the stream. It helps the algorithm find us, and maybe it opens the doors for, if directors are planning to make similar movies, they would consider these out of the box alternate endings. And I believe directors should step out of this fan pleasing way of doing things and try to do something out of the box, right? That fans do not expect. That was my take on this movie. I did not discuss alternate endings in the channel. I just discussed the endings 2 times. I discussed a couple of scenes, analyzing them, but I was asking why not do a live on the alternate endings that directors might have considered while writing the show. I know it's old show, but it still lives with us to this day. Okay, so looks like I'm gonna end the stream for now. I can get back to it if I don't have a chance to